Hey there, this is Ross Izzard, and this is the Backcountry Fly Fishing Podcast, where we talk about fly fishing and why we are grateful for fly fishing. You might notice this episode is going up on a Thursday instead of a Friday, and that is because, you guessed it, this Thursday is Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving is an awesome holiday. It's actually my favorite holiday, in part because I get to stuff my face with whatever I want. In part because it's one of the only days of the year that I ever actually get to not work and lay around on a couch and just be a potato, which it's not usually my favorite thing, but hey, everybody's got to relax sometimes. And really, even more importantly, because it is a good reminder to sit down and take stock of the things that you are grateful for. And the truth is, that's something that we should be doing pretty much every day of the year. But the truth also is that we really don't. Life gets busy, your career gets busy, your family gets busy, drama happens, good things happen, bad things happen, you sleep enough, you don't sleep enough. Lots of stuff happens, and we very often forget to take a minute to stop and think about what we have, to be grateful for what we have, to be grateful for what we're going to have if we keep pushing down the path of growth, and just to be thankful for the things that have happened to us, good and bad, and the things that we have in our lives that keep us going through the hard times. And I can't think of anything that has kept me going better through the hard times than backcountry fly fishing. And you might notice that I throw the word backcountry in there, and that's because I think, as we've talked about in some of the other episodes on this podcast, backcountry fly fishing is a different experience from regular fly fishing. And that's not to say that regular fly fishing is somehow inferior or that backcountry anglers are superior. Although, I don't know, we do need to know more stuff, so at least there's that. But setting that aside, it's really more about the fact that I think it comes from a different place. Okay, so, you can go fly fishing for a lot of reasons. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. There is plenty of opportunity to find peace, jumping out of your truck, walking 5 feet in your waders and hopping into the local river or fishing the local pond. That's fine. And if that's your thing and that's how you like to fly fish, more power to you. But there's something different about throwing on a heavy pack, backpacking off into the wilderness, using your Mark I legs to carry you off into some wild place that very few people have ever seen, where you're likely to be isolated, you're likely to experience solitude, you're likely to experience quiet, maybe loneliness, maybe a whole bunch of other things, going back to the concept of always kind of being able to feel and hear your ghosts out there, especially when you're by yourself. And that just is sort of a different thing that I think we undertake for different reasons. And I really think that gratefulness is not so much something that we should feel for fly fishing as much as something that is part of backcountry fly fishing. Gratefulness is really a key part of the sport to me, right? So I'm not out there just to catch fish, as you guys know from listening for the last couple of years. I'm not really in it just to take pretty pictures. I'm not really in it just to perfect my techniques or use the fanciest gear or, brag about how far or how high I hiked. I am in it because it gives something back to me. And it goes beyond ego. It goes beyond pride. It goes beyond the basics of putting a fish in the net and feeling good that I did that. Certainly that's part of it. But it's really something deeper than that. And the older I get, the more challenging stuff that I run into, whether that be, deaths in the family or a loss of friendship or divorce or career hardships or business challenges or personal challenges or health challenges, the more I age, the more I run into those challenges. And that's an experience that I think a lot of people share. And the more I run into those challenges, the more grateful I am that I have the mechanisms to cope with those challenges. And not just to cope with them, because I think the word cope implies that you are just sort of barely making it. You're keeping your head above water, but you're not thriving, right? You're just you're surviving. You're doing what you have to do to make it to the next sunrise. And there's nothing wrong with that. And we all have days like that. But I find that backcountry fly fishing for me is more than just a coping mechanism. It is a mechanism for processing and for growth and for thriving, even in difficult times. It gives me the tools and the experience that I need to be able to not just survive the hard times, but to internalize those hard times, to take the lessons that they're giving me, to put all of those things into practice in my life, to integrate them into my worldview and the way that I think and my spirit. Yes, I said it. We don't usually get into the spiritual stuff, but hey, you integrate that into your spirit, which you can define however you want, and it helps make you better. It makes you better able to tackle the next challenge. It makes you better able to walk into the next day and function. It makes you better able to hold yourself together when stuff is tough and life is swirling around you and things are hard. And there are just so many ways that backcountry fly fishing has been there for me in my life through the good times and the bad. It's just incredibly different from anything else I've ever experienced. And so for that reason, I really do believe that thankfulness and gratefulness are key components of the sport. Once you really commit to backcountry fly fishing and all the skills and knowledge and thought and planning and risk and everything else that comes along with it, that is part of it. It's not just something you feel toward it, but part of it. And I would like to spend this Thanksgiving having a short episode as you stuff your face with turkey and stuffing and mashed potatoes and pumpkin pie and whatever other disgusting calorie bombs you're throwing into your face. Just kidding, no judgment. I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm right there with you. But I would like to take a minute for all of us to sort of meditate together and to think together about how much this sport means to us. And by extension, what kind of responsibility that meaning gives to us as anglers that we need to take seriously and carry forward, not just this year, not just in 2026, but for all the years that come after and all the generations that come after. So that's what we're going to do today. Let's start with the stuff that fly fishing gives us, the things that are involved in backcountry fly fishing that we are grateful for and that lead to the fact that gratefulness is really part of what we're doing. And we've talked about a lot of these sort of over the course of the podcast. We're going to talk more about them as we go because I think they're important and we really can't say them too often. But we're just going to hit these and work our way through it because they deserve to be said. And I think that as you hear me say these, there are going to be at least a couple of them that you're going to nod your head along to and say, yeah, man, I feel that same way. And that's cool, right? We don't all have to be big, stoic, rugged outdoorsmen. It's okay for us to stop, get into our feels, and be honest about how we feel about the sport and how much it means to us at a sentimental and emotional level. And so that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to start because y'all know I'm not afraid to talk about my feelings. So we'll go ahead and get rocking. The first one is that it brings me peace. And I want to be careful about defining what the word peace means here. I think when we say things like fly fishing brings me peace or hiking brings me peace, people assume that it means peace as in a quieting of your spirit in that particular moment or a quieting of your mind in that particular moment. But I don't really know if that's exactly the right way to define the peace that fly fishing gives me and backcountry fly fishing specifically gives me. It's not so much that, let's say I go out and I'm processing something hard, so maybe it's a relational problem, or maybe it's a work issue, or whatever it might be. It's not like I go out into the woods and I hit the trail and I start hiking and then that just goes away and I forget about it. And I walk down the trail and go, wow, it's a bird, and wow, it's a tree, and that's a moose over there. Of course, I am awed by nature, and we'll talk more about that here in a minute. But it isn't so much that I feel instantly peaceful out there. It's more that as I am out there, I am able to place whatever trouble I have, which I am still experiencing pretty intensely out there. In fact, especially when I'm alone and I'm just kind of with my thoughts and with those ghosts that we've talked about before, I experience that very intensely, sometimes more intensely than I feel it down in the city when I'm running around to meetings and I'm doing this and I'm doing that and I've got my kids and all that stuff. It's not so much that I'm feeling peace. It is more that I'm experiencing a larger form of peace because I am placing whatever the issue or whatever the problem is that I am working through inside the context of something much larger than me, right? You're taking this thing that might feel huge to you, it might feel scary or insurmountable, and you are putting it into an environment that is so much bigger than you and so much bigger than any problem you have. And this ecosystem with its own patterns and its own systems and its own cycles that are not affected by you, that don't care about you, that aren't worried about whatever problem you have to be facing. They just keep going and they keep going and they keep going. They were going millennia before the first human being ever touched them or experienced them, and they will be going for millions of years, probably after the last human being has seen them and experienced them. And there's a certain kind of peace that comes from that is not necessarily that the problem has resolved itself or you're okay and your mind is quiet and you feel great all the time. It's more about the kind of peace that comes from understanding that you are part of something much larger than you, much more complex than you, and something that absolutely dwarfs whatever issues you have in your life and that doesn't care about whatever issues you have in your life. And if you really want to go out and level yourself out, being able to go to a place where you feel like your whole world's burning down, everything is unstable, oh my God, the sky is falling. And trust me, guys, I've had plenty of days where I felt just like that for a whole bunch of different reasons. But to go to a place where you look around and you're like, nothing out here has changed. The wind hasn't changed. The bugs haven't changed. The animals haven't changed. The trees haven't changed. The mountains certainly haven't changed. The river hasn't changed. The lake hasn't changed. And realizing that, man, the world does keep going and nature does keep going and life does keep going despite this problem that I have that I just think is this huge hairy beast that I'll never get over. That is a form of overarching sort of existential peace that I think we don't talk about often enough. And I tell you what, when we're talking about the things that I am grateful for in fly fishing, that piece, the idea that you are part of something bigger than you, the perspective that it gives you, and the way that perspective can shrink the problems that you have into a manageable thing that you're like, oh, you know what? Life goes on and I can deal with this. And now let me use my time out here to think about how to deal with it. I am incredibly grateful for that. And usually when I walk out of the woods after a particularly tough day out there where I'm thinking about stuff and chewing on it, I have this sort of tired, grateful, just mellow feeling. And not because everything's all better, not necessarily because I'm at peace in that moment, but because I know it's going to be okay. I can handle it. I can work my way through it. So peace is a big reason that I'm grateful for fly fishing. Another one is connected to that, and that is meditation, the ability to be quiet, right? And I'm not talking about sitting down in the grass and making those little circles with your fingers and going, oh, I mean, you can do that if you want. So no disrespect to any Buddhists or Hindus out there, but that's not what I mean by meditation. When I say meditation, I mean deliberate, intentional thought for yourself, where you are not distracted. You are not pulled in a million different directions. Your attention is not split. You are able to think and to be alone with your thoughts and to chew on your thoughts in a place, in a scenario, in a situation that don't try to suck you away from that. And we've talked a little bit about this before, but this is how it is in modern life, right? I mean, you go out in the city and there's lights and there's sounds and there's cars and there's people and there's advertisement and there's signs and there's stuff to buy and there's airplanes in the sky. And it's just, we're so used to it in modern life that we don't even think about it. But the reality is that level of sensory input is just overwhelming to people's psyche. It's very hard to really sit and think intentionally and deliberately in those environments because there's just too much going on around you. And there are limits to the human brain. There's only so much capacity that we have up here in the old noggin. And it can be very, very tough to quiet the noise of your work and your family and the drama and the crisis and everything in the news and everything else going around you and just think. Think about a problem. Think about a solution to that problem. Think about what you're going to do. Think about a decision. Think about yourself. Think about the stuff that you did right or the stuff that you did wrong. Think about that relationship that you blew up. Think about the relationship that worked. Think about the ideas that you have for the future, the dreams you have for the future, the goals you set for yourself. That, in an uninterrupted, quiet, unbroken place, is meditation. And you will not find that. I truly believe this. Short of locking yourself in a sensory deprivation tank, which is not my thing for a lot of reasons, but short of that, and even if you could, I don't even think it would do the same thing as being off in nature in the wilderness and just being in a quiet place that continues with or without you, where you are just an observer. You're part of it. You're there. You're watching it. You can see it. You can touch it. But it isn't about you. And there's nothing around you that's about you. And it's not going to try to sell you something. And it doesn't have a problem for you to solve. It just is. It's old. It's ancient. It's been doing this for so much longer than you have ever existed. And that provides a place to really think. And that, for me, is true meditation. It's the only place that I can find true meditation. That's part of why I go so far to get to these places, to find those quiet places that offer me solitude. And I am incredibly grateful for the opportunity to just have my brain at 100% and my mind and my heart in a quiet place where they can work and do the things that makes us human, which is the ability to think and to reason and to process and to experience emotion. I am so thankful to have a place to go and do that. And there has not been a single time ever in all the time I've been backcountry fly fishing where I have not walked around, found a quiet place, and just sort of taken a deep breath and go, man, I can hear myself again. I can hear myself think again. And that, my friends, is worth more than just about anything else I could think of. Money, cars, popularity, fame. Man, none of it means anything if you can't listen to yourself, hear yourself think, and be able to be you in your own head the way you were meant to be. So I'm grateful for that too. And then the next one related to all this, what happens when you find that new perspective and the peace that comes along with it? What happens when you have the chance to meditate when you didn't before? Well, now you get to experience that thing that we keep talking about all the time, which is growth, right? And fly fishing in general provides a lot of opportunities for growth, right? So knowledge of the insects that you're imitating, knowledge of the fish and their behavior and their habitat, knowledge of the river systems, knowledge of the environment, general ecological knowledge. Of course, those things are all there. But then you have all this other stuff, right? Hiking knowledge and camping knowledge and gear knowledge and fitness knowledge and all of this other stuff that comes into it, all of which adds up to your growth as an outdoorsman as far as your skills go. We're out there pursuing mastery, both in fly fishing and in outdoor skills and outdoorsmanship generally, but also growth in yourself, right? And it's a funny thing. If you spend time in places that put your problems in perspective and provide you with the sort of quiet that you need to think, you're going to start to experience growth. You're going to be walking along and you go, man, I really messed that up. I better be careful about that next time. Or, maybe I was right about that all along and I should have listened to my intuition. Or, you know what? I think I finally know what I'm going to go to school for. Or I think I finally know what to do about this relationship that might not be good for me anymore. Or maybe is really good for you. I don't know, whichever one it could be. But you're going to find that these other pieces of the experience of backcountry fly fishing provide you with the opportunity for growth, both internally as a person and externally as an angler and an outdoors person. And that growth is the point. Right? I mean, people are always joking around in the movies and on TV about the meaning of life. Well, the meaning of life is growth. Sorry to spoil it for you, but we are not down here to just exist, right? We're not here to just scrape by and find a little bit of comfort and then die on the couch at 85, functionally the same as we were at 35. That isn't what it's about, right? We are down here to learn and to explore our potential, to pursue the things that we care about, to master the things that we care about, to pick up new skills and to get better. And all of those things, if you were to sum them up into a single word, would be growth. And I tell you what, nothing in my life, not jujitsu, not weightlifting, not my career, not my relationships, nothing in my life has ever been able to support and facilitate and cultivate growth in me the way that the outdoors and fly fishing and backcountry fly fishing have. And I am immensely grateful for that every single time I'm out there because, man, what an incredibly powerful catalyst for change and development. I don't know what I would do without it. And then here's the final piece that I think is worth talking about. It's not necessarily just about what fly fishing and backcountry fly fishing gives to you as a person and angler. Of course, that's a huge part of it. I mean, that's a big part of why we're out there. But it's also about being thankful for this incredible planet that we live on, and the places themselves and the fish themselves. And this is where we're going to get a little bit hippie. So, y'all break out your Birkenstocks, get your burlap sacks, maybe break out your tweed jackets and your tobacco pipe. But we're going to get a little hippie here for a second, because the truth is, I appreciate the incredible beauty and intricacy of nature in general. Not just because of what it gives me, not just because it gives me peace, it provides the opportunity for meditation, it provides a field for growth, but because it's beautiful on its own, and it's beautiful by itself, regardless of what it gives me or doesn't give me. And that is something that I think we too often lose sight of, right? It becomes about us. And yes, it is about us. And hey, I just spent, 20 minutes laying out reasons that I like backcountry fly fishing, and I'm thankful for backcountry fly fishing because of what it gives to me. But the truth is, I'm also just thankful for the fact that these places exist. I'm thankful for the fact that we live on this incredible planet full of these incredible places that offer these wildly complicated ecosystems that support these beautiful animals that we get to go and observe and be around and experience and catch. And, you think about just the sheer majesty of a lot of the places where trout live, and really a lot of the places where all of the fish that we like to fly fish for live. And it just is incredible. And it is hard to go to some of these places, whether it is a high alpine lake at 12,000 feet overlooking some old glacial cirque, or looking back down a valley 1,000 feet below you, or a deep canyon with those sort of striations and layered rocks and sedimentary rocks, and just this record of millions upon millions upon millions of years of history carved down into the earth, or a forest with a quiet meadow, or the plains with a river running through it. Wherever you happen to be, all of these places are wild, and they all are beautiful, and they all are worth appreciating and being grateful for just because they are. Even if they give you nothing, it's worth being grateful for the incredible things that we have here in front of us to experience, to enjoy, to visit, and ultimately to protect. And so before we close out here for Thanksgiving and I let you get back to your families and your traditions, or whatever you happen to be doing on Thanksgiving, because I know some people have other stuff going on, and hey, me too, man. I'm not having a traditional Thanksgiving this year either, so I'm in it with you. But before you get back to whatever you happen to be doing today, I want to take a minute to talk about the fact that gratitude isn't enough. And that's a hard thing to hear. Gratitude is important. Certainly you should feel grateful. Certainly you should feel thankful. However, it comes with a responsibility. Okay, this stuff isn't free. And so the ability to go out and see these places, the ability for these places to even exist, for us to be grateful for them in the first place, means that we have a responsibility to them. And that could be responsibility as far as how we act. So leaving no trace, picking up your trash, not setting fires that could burn the forest down, not spot burning places so that they get overrun by people and activity, not disrespecting places by dropping your wrappers or spitting your gum in the river. It can be sort of basic pieces of respect and pieces of responsibility from you as an angler. And that's where it starts. That's the most important thing. But it's more than that too, right? It comes with the need to protect these places. And as you guys know from listening to the podcast over the last couple of years now, that means you're going to have to get involved sometimes in policy and politics. So whether somebody is trying to sell off public land or allow the construction of new industry or roads in your favorite wilderness area, or just generally doing things that are bad for stream health and bad for these wild places and bad for access or anything else, you got to pay attention. And that means you're eventually probably going to have to get involved in politics and policy, even if you don't want to. And I know that there are some of you who listen to this podcast who really are vehemently opposed to me talking about politics on here. To you, it's just fishing. But to me, it's not just fishing. It is about all of the things that I get from it, it's about the places themselves, and it is about accepting and carrying the responsibility to make sure those places can survive, not just for my benefit, but for the benefit of the next guy who needs them, and the benefit of my children, and the benefit of my grandchildren, because these places are the nation's soul. They are the heart of our country. They are the heart of so many people in our country, and they serve purposes that go so far beyond tourism and sightseeing and just general Polaroid wow factor. They are more than that, and they deserve to be protected. So you do have an obligation to protect them. And then finally, you have a responsibility to teach others and to educate them about all of this. People don't know how to practice leave no trace unless you teach them. They don't know how to handle a fish without hurting the fish or killing the fish unless you teach them. They don't know how to find out regulations about whether or not they're allowed to build a fire or where they're allowed to camp or if they should use the bathroom right next to the river or any of those things. They don't know these things unless you educate them. They don't even really know in some cases that these places exist until you educate them. They don't know that they're threatened until you educate them. They don't know that they could be impacted by policy changes unless you educate them. And so in addition to practicing responsibility on your own and practicing responsibility in the public arena, you also have a responsibility to take the magic of these places and educate others about them and about what they mean to you, about what they mean to the country, about what they mean to other anglers and other sportsmen, and about the need to keep these places safe, intact, and healthy, not just now, but for many, many, many generations into the future, so that they can continue doing all of the incredible things that they're doing for us today. So guys, as you sit down to dig into that turkey and watch football or do whatever it is you're up to today, I know you might be thinking about fishing. Hell, some of you guys might actually be out there fishing, in which case, that's awesome, dude. I wish I was too. But whatever you're doing, take a minute to think about this incredible sport that brings us all together. Think about this really cool community of anglers and outdoorsmen that coexist in these spaces and coexist around this sport and this activity. And just take a minute to be thankful for the fact that we have this thing, and thankful for the fact that there are many thousands of people just like you who are working to make sure that the ability to access these places and fly fish in these places and appreciate these places and get all the great stuff that they have to offer us remains intact many, many, many years into the future. Happy Thanksgiving, guys. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I hope you're getting some rest and taking some time off this week. And I will look forward to seeing you back here to keep talking about fishing next Friday. Until next time, this is Ross. Maybe I'll see you out there. Unless you had too much turkey to stand.